to you. I'm not a keynote speaker, you'll be pleased to know. I seem to have gone in the programme in the wrong place. It's really to try and attempt to round up slightly an impossible task, but some quotes that have made themselves felt and some words more than themes in a way, because the whole thing has been really full of information and perhaps discoveries that have been made during the day. So the words that really struck me out of many of the discussions were the collaboration, the collectivism, integrity and bravery, courageous leadership, joining things up, surviving and fighting, reaching out, involving and inspiring real people. They're the themes that shine through for me, and there's perhaps no surprises that community and being authentic are really important to all the practitioners here, I'm sure. Going back to, we were urged by Peter Jenkinson, and I picked up on embracing generosity and empathy to provide bold leadership and really look at collaboration and collectivism. He said, there is a purposeful future, arts and arts creativity is at the front of the agenda, everything else has failed. And I don't know whether that's huge optimism or huge pessimism, but it certainly struck me, change or die. And leadership by everyone, there is an urgent need to be courageous, not just the few, make those unlikely connections, think and act dangerously and even promiscuously. Join up, connect, have the strange conversation, make friends with strange people, make new compacts and connections. He talked very much of working from the edge into the centre and starting out in communities and around communities and walking towards the centre, working towards the centre. And even asked to make a new model, if it was messy or dirty and unimagined. And I think that was a challenge for you to perhaps imagine it. Talked of conflict that can only be addressed through culture from his own particular experience in Derry, Londonderry, and that's the core of their regeneration plan. So the uncomfortable conversations, the arguments, if you will. We went on to Christiana, and I'm sorry to put words into your mouth, these are my impressions of what they said. She called on artists to transmit their vision and inspire people to participate, and warned you that austerity is not, as she put it, passing by. She asked if there really was no money, but said you should accept it's a war situation and make up solutions. That as far as the state goes, in her experience, art is being seen as a useless luxury, because art makes people think, gives them the power to doubt, to contradict authority, and it gives people the ability to have a vision. She said, admit we're at war, create the synergies, the coalitions, the collaborations, that we must work united to get the results. Keep arts going, engage people, make it part of their lives, they must love it, and you must be truthful to your art, and make people appreciate it. Challenge audiences, don't flatter them. In the war situation, invent strategies perhaps inspired by guerrilla war, corrupt from the inside, she had found very effective. Change the perception about the relationship of art and money, and support things, I think, which echoes what a lot of people have said, support the things you want to do because they are important, because they need doing. Exchange collaboration, and above all, make coalitions, keep things going. She also opened up the way to the controversy, if you like, or the thing that a lot of people are thinking about, who gets paid for what? And how important is that? What can you do to make it be paid? And her experience in Greece with no funding anymore, no public funding, no sponsorship. And she relied, in the end, on very rich friends, and they might not be able to help, but asking for products and services seemed to work for her. In the breakout sessions, we looked at the need for expensive venues or not, and really, from those discussions, it was that fantastic new venues weren't cheaper, but they were different, and they offered better value because they contextualized work, they made it accessible, they were in different and the right place perhaps for pieces of work that went on. They met local people and they were reconnecting with people. There were barriers, perhaps more perceived than real, of health and safety, but that echoed other things that had been said about the need to take risks, to be brave, and to see what happened and where those risks took you. Learning about city connections, and a direct quote, able to take risks, reinforce the idea that creativity can be discovered in all places, and it's good to get involved with different organisations. and projects changing as they go on, very open projects, and that was reflected in another workshop where the people were reporting back from working in South Africa. I shall go straight to that so I can talk about it. What can we learn from international practice in places with scarce resources? Friction Arts reported on their 6.5-week residency in South Africa, working in a square mile in a complex society in the poorest area of the city, and talking about trying to capture the conversations going on underneath, making their connections, crossing thresholds, getting people to cross their thresholds, taking people with them, reinventing the political discussion was a quote from there. And another project, Prayer, which we can see in Birmingham at the moment, it's opening tonight, renegotiating conflict that will never be resolved. There aren't going to be resolution, there is just constant renegotiation and exploration. Encourage people to explore connectedness, make friends there out of strange people. And a quote that I took from there, art becomes an urgent necessity when it turns strangers into friends and friends into communities. Art can make it easier and more pleasurable to share custodianship of the world we find ourselves in. And that was a project looking at different religions through the sounds that their prayers and the things from meetings that they have would mean, bringing people together who wouldn't necessarily meet and showing people their own city, because it was done in collaboration with a partner in a new city that the project moved on to, leaving the legacy for the people left in the city, not taking that legacy away with it. How can artists engage local communities? Well, really the big answer seemed to be get out there, which you all do, but just reinforcing it, that one project had made 1,000 first-time contacts in the urban environment. And then we heard from La Tabacalera and the project there in a huge space, and how out of people committing themselves, making some money at the end of the project, but really based on what was free, what was going on. It had to be acknowledged, a very different culture. But 1,500 people, it was suggested, were involved, and probably only 100 people politically involved, which is something to think about. There are the politics, there are people who want to be political, but there are other people who want to be involved. The Street Art Collective, changing neighbourhoods, and we heard all about Stan's Cafe, and from going into a big urban building, and the pride in having it, and the problems in having it, and the use that it was being to Stan's Cafe and to other people. And somebody who reported on that session for me came up with 4 things at the end of the space, the big spaces for artists. That it was fantastic to have flexibility of space, meant a lot could be done. And it was great to offer affordable space to people who couldn't otherwise afford it, but there were liabilities, there were those huge challenges, and it took so much energy, so much time, that people had to be very, very committed and would possibly need some support. I shall finish in a moment because I'm sure you've got loads of questions for our panel. When artists were asked what personal qualities had made their projects in the South African project work, they said that their personal qualities, creating relationships, effective relationship, listening and intrigue, I particularly liked, connection to community, and theory, someone said, I think it was Anna, is not what helps people do it. Wanting to do it and being involved and being led by someone who's passionate about it helps people do it. Trust, belief, authenticity. If you're not doing what you say you're doing, change what you're doing or what you're saying, was something that particularly struck me. And of course, the funding debate will go on, and you might have questions for the people here. I'm just going to finish by saying I can only wish you enormous good luck. I've been so impressed and inspired by lots of the things I've heard today. But I can only wish that you make friends with strange people, you indulge in brave and promiscuous behaviour, you have uncomfortable conversations, will be successful if you adopt guerrilla tactics, or I hope you will, think differently, and find yourselves having, as Dorothy Wilson put it earlier today, those dangerous conversations in safe places that might help you carry on with your practice. Good luck to you all, and thank you very much for being here.